The Boston Red Sox should not consider trading Jarren Duran. I'll tell you exactly why on today's Locked On Red Sox.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and currently the host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part, it's free. So you might as well continue to tune in because Locked On is here for you every single day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Welcome to today's show. The Red Sox went through a tough loss last night against the Angels, falling 7-6. Another frustrating one-run loss. The Red Sox are now 6-16 in one-run games this year. They just cannot figure out how to win those one-run games. And this was a game that really felt like the Red Sox were in it because they went down 6-0 early after an absolute meltdown by Richard Fitz in the top of the first inning. He just didn't have it. He's still technically rehabbing. He kind of bypassed a rehab assignment with the Woo Sox altogether and was just brought right back up to the major league team. I never thought that was a good idea to begin with. So here we are, meltdown by him. But then the Red Sox climbed back in the game. They just kept chipping away, getting runs on the board, and went down 6-5, then gave up a home run to go down 7-5, scored another run on a home run to go down 7-6, and just could not finish it out. So a frustrating loss once again, but the Red Sox could still win the series. One of the biggest storylines of the game last night has to do with a player that's been talked about a little bit in trade talks, which is Jarren Duran. So I'm going to be talking about him a little bit more, as well as the weird looking lineup that the Red Sox had for the night last night. And Romy Gonzalez has returned. So I'm going to be talking about his impact on the team. But Jarren Duran in Monday night's game was batting where he always bats, in the leadoff spot. He went 3 for 5 with 2 runs scored. Also a strikeout, but he's up to a 271 batting average on the season with a 317 on base percentage, 417 slugging. And then he has 15 doubles, 6 triples, 4 home runs, 34 RBIs, 31 runs scored, and 13 stolen bases, and a .8 WAR over 60 games. He's still under team control through 2028 and isn't expensive just yet. He has an $8 million club option for next year before 2 years of arbitration. But the biggest point that I wanted to make with reading that stat line was that he really still can do it all. Not only does he provide a strong bat in the leadoff spot, but he just has the speed and the plus defense to go along with it. And yes, he had a period of time during this season where he was struggling offensively, but he seems to be waking back up now. And he has a history of having a really big June over the course of his career. So it would be really nice for him to continue that pattern this year and have a big month here coming up, because the Red Sox could really use that type of offensive production from anybody on that team right now. So the reason why there have been rumblings surrounding Jarren Duran as of late is that rumor has it that the Padres are reportedly interested in Jarren Duran. And I still think it's far too soon to say right now that the Red Sox should definitely be sellers. Why? Because they don't sit that far out of a wild card spot right now in the American League. So it's hard to really say, oh, we should make moves now and just kind of fold on the season when they're still in it. I mean, as of right now, they are 4 games back in the wild card race. So that's not unattainable. They definitely have the potential to be able to compete for a wild card spot still. Obviously, if they don't get hot in the next couple of weeks, that's a conversation that they're probably going to have to start having is, all right, what do we do now? We probably should start thinking about the trade deadline, and maybe it would be in our best interest to sell. But they're not at that point completely yet. If they were to sell at the deadline, losing Jarren Duran would be a mistake for the Red Sox, because then you're losing your leadoff hitter who has been pretty consistent so far in that spot for your team. So you're losing a guy who can provide a lot of value in the leadoff spot, not only because of the fact that he gets on base a lot, but because he has plus speed and can turn singles into doubles more often than not. You're already getting a runner into scoring position right away if Jarren Duran gets a hit the first time he's up at the plate. And that's not the case with every player on this team. So I'm looking at Jarren Duran as a guy you want to keep around. I know the outfield situation is a little bit dicey right now in terms of knowing what they're going to do long term, who's going to play where, what's going to happen when Roman Anthony comes up, and how are they going to make room for him. I know those are all questions that the Red Sox still have yet to answer. You also have the password, aka Joe Sixon Garcia, in AAA, who got called up recently and has been tearing it up there. So there are obviously question marks surrounding the Red Sox outfield right now, but the biggest thing for me is there aren't a lot of players that provide the same level of versatility that Jarren Duran provides. And that's something that I keep repeatedly saying over and over again, is you want that bat in the lineup. You want him to set the tone and put immediate pressure on opposing pitchers when he's out there. And there's a lot to be said for having the type of speed that Jarren Duran has, because if you notice, every time he's at the plate and he's able to make contact and turn a single into a double, the pitcher already just starts to get a little bit on edge. And it usually always happens in that scenario. So if you have him hitting leadoff with his speed, I'm keeping him there, because then the more you can throw off the starting pitcher earlier on in the game, the better it will be for your team. So I personally don't believe that it would be a good idea for the Red Sox to trade Jarren Duran. In fact, I actually think it would be really dumb by the Red Sox to trade Jarren Duran with all of the upside that he provides. It would be different if he was a remarkable hitter, but he didn't provide much else. But that's not the case. Even defensively, he provides a ton. He's making plays way deep in center field. When he's in left field, also covering a lot of ground. And that's the other thing too that I like about Duran, is that he has experience in center at Fenway and in left. And obviously he's been playing more in left this year because the Red Sox like the idea of Ceddanne Rafaela in center. But he can play a good center field also. And because of his speed, again, he can cover lots of ground making a play out there. So I personally don't feel like Duran is the outfielder that I would be looking to move if they are going to move an outfielder. And honestly, it shouldn't even really have to come to that in general, because they could make Rafaela a super utility player where he's basically playing wherever the team needs him to play. And that's always a route that the Red Sox could take. And then they could keep Duran in the outfield every day to go with Wilyer Abreu and Roman Anthony. Now, that is an idea that I like. And the thing with Jarren Duran is he may go through slumps where he's struggling at the plate, but they're never super long lasting. And he always bounces back and is able to be one of the most consistent bats in the lineup when he does. So I don't feel like this is a move that would necessarily help the Red Sox unless they're getting some insane pitcher in return that it would be impossible to say no to. Then maybe you think about it. But I don't see Jarren Duran as a piece that it makes sense to move because of how much he provides that not every player on this team provides. So again, take it with a grain of salt that there's rumors saying the Padres are interested. Nothing about whether the Red Sox are also interested. It doesn't really feel like they have any interest in trading Duran. So hopefully it doesn't go anywhere, but always important to talk about these things. And coming up, I'm going to be going over the weird looking lineup that the Red Sox put out there in last night's game and trying to help make sense of why that lineup was the way that it was. So my cousin works in the electrical industry, and he's always looking for new supplies for his job. And Supply House has always been there for him. It's the most reliable way to order products online, and the website's really easy to follow and just has a bunch of info about all the products that you're actually ordering so that you know that you're ordering the best quality stuff and that it's going to get you really far. So my cousin uses it every day now, ever since he's learned about Supply House, because he's always looking for new tools and supplies to do his job the right way, and he hasn't once had an issue with it. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. I'm telling you, you could really benefit from this if you're in those types of industries. So, obviously, the Red Sox are in a place right now where they're is starting to be some conversation surrounding the trade deadline and if they're going to basically fold on the season and decide to be sellers. Alex Cora doesn't really feel under the impression that it's time to panic just yet about this team. And he keeps acknowledging that certain things need to be better, but he's definitely never going to say, oh, our season's over, because the manager can't say that. He can't say, I don't have faith in this team. He's basically saying we are behind, but we can't concentrate on that. We have to concentrate on winning series. I totally believe that we can do that. And even with this series they're in right now, if you take the messy first inning out of it, the Red Sox played a better game than the Angels the rest of the way. Obviously, you can't take that inning out because it's part of the storyline of the game. So it's unfortunate that the first inning, they gave up 6 runs without recording it out. So obviously that is a very difficult game to win. You're not going to come back like that every night like the Red Sox did. But the rest of the game, the Red Sox overall played a better game than the Angels did. Now, granted, they had 2 errors in this game. The errors are starting to be a problem again. The infield defense had fixed itself for a while, and they were playing consistently pretty good defense. But now with Alex Bregman out, there's definitely been some tough miscues defensively by this team. They do have to get right in that regard. And Alex Cora also talked about how he feels like, I truly believe that we're not that far off, and I am not giving up yet, which is good. I mean, as the manager, you have to show that you have that kind of faith. And Jarren Duran actually spoke on it too. And he said, we've got a lot of young guys that are just learning to compete at this level. I know we're going to hit our stride eventually because they'll figure it out, and they're figuring it out at the major league level. So he believes in the young talent that this team has. And I think that's really good. You need team leaders who believe and trust in those guys. And Jarren Duran has really grown into a true leader in that clubhouse, which I think is so important. But you have all these young guys, and Alex Cora has been moving them around in the lineup a little bit. So going into Monday night's game, the lineup was Jarren Duran playing left field and hitting leadoff as usual. Then Rafael Devers as usual in the 2-hole DHing. Then Rob Refsnyder in right field hitting third because the Angels were throwing a left-handed pitcher to start the game. Refsnyder is usually always in the lineup against a lefty because he just has crushed lefties over the course of his career. So he usually plays for Wilyer Abreu in that case. And then Carlos Narvaez batting fourth and doing the catching. Romy Gonzalez at first base batting fifth. Abraham Toro at third base batting sixth. Trevor Story batting seventh at shortstop. Cedar Rafaela batting eighth in center field. And Christian Campbell all the way down in the 9-hole at second base, all behind Richard Fitz, who struggled. So that was the lineup. And there were a few questions that people had about that lineup. One of them being, why was Abraham Toro playing third base? Now, some of you might not know, but third base is actually Abraham Toro's natural position. That was his first position and the infield position that he was always used to playing. And then he got moved to first base. So people associate him with first base now because that's now his position in the majors. But he does have an extensive background in playing third. So because of that, the Red Sox were like, all right, we have Romy back, but Toro's bat has been red hot in the lineup, so we want to still incorporate him. So that's why they had him play third base, and they also figured, let's let Marcelo Meyer have the day off, so he didn't play, and they wanted to find a way to keep Toro in the lineup because of how well he had been hitting as of late. So that was part of the reason why he was still in the game, even though he wasn't playing first base. And the other interesting thing was Christian Campbell moving all the way down to the 9 hole, but he really struggled a lot in May, and the Red Sox are really hoping he gets back on track. He went 0 for 4 in last night's game. Batting average is now at a 223 with a 307 on base percentage and 342 slugging. So they are really hoping that with less pressure on him that he's able to get himself back on track, because, the earlier in the lineup that you're hitting, the more pressure there is on you. If you're in the 1 through 4 spots in that lineup, you're expected to produce. Whereas if you're batting in the 9 hole, you're not really as expected to come through in big moments. And if you do, it's like a huge deal because people aren't always relying on the 9 hitter. And I think the thing with Christian Campbell is that he's been in his head a lot, because he had a really good surge to start the season at the plate. He really impressed offensively early on. And then he started taking some reps at first base, and he started to seemingly get in his head, especially because he was already playing both at second base and in the outfield for the Red Sox this season. So him taking reps at first, then he started getting in his head about certain things. And for him, that's got to be tough as a rookie, because you have so much that you're trying to do well, and you want to do every little thing the right way so that you can prove to the organization that you're in that, hey, I'm here. I deserve to be here. I don't want to disappoint you. And I think when it comes to this situation with Campbell, there's a lot that he's been in his head about. So Alex Cora had talked about briefly how they wanted to really try to get him going again. So he was in the 9 hole because of the fact that they didn't feel like he can hit any earlier in the lineup until he starts to turn things around a little bit. And it was definitely interesting to see that, because everybody's used to Cedar Rafaela batting 9th. He pretty much has always, and his time in Boston so far, been the 9 hitter. So the fact that they moved him up to put Campbell there says a lot about how much they've liked the way that Rafaela has improved at the plate this year. And he has shown some growth in that area, whereas Campbell has continued to struggle. So I do think that Campbell will bat in the bottom of the lineup, either in the 8 or 9 spot, until he kind of starts to pick things back up. They were having him hit cleanup, which is 4th, and that wasn't really working out as well for him. Lots of pressure when you're in that role. So the Red Sox want to try to alleviate some of that pressure by putting him towards the bottom of the lineup until he's at least able to get himself back on track. Romy Gonzalez obviously returned and has been contributing, but Rob Refsnyder batting 3rd, definitely interesting. I would have thought he maybe would have been in the 4th or 5th spot, but I think the Red Sox felt pretty confident in him going into this game because, again, with a lefty on the mound. And then Refsnyder ended up going 1 for 3 with an RBI in the game. He did strike out twice, but he's hitting .304 on the season with a .379 on base percentage and .571 slugging. So he has actually been one of the team's best hitters overall over the course of this season. And batting over 300 has really helped the Red Sox lineup to stabilize a little bit. And it's been a huge lifesaver for a team that's without Alex Bregman right now. So I don't hate the fact that they tried him out in the 3 hole. There hasn't really been a reason for me to say they shouldn't, because he hasn't been struggling much at all offensively. But I just thought that was a little bit surprising. I thought he might have been a little bit further down. But even Trevor Story and him batting 7th, I mean, that makes a lot of sense too. Until he can show that he can consistently be productive, he has to hang down there. And there have been times where Trevor Story was hitting higher up in the lineup, and it didn't really work out well for him. So Alex Cora naturally is going to continue to mix up the lineup and move guys around, because somebody could be hot while somebody else isn't. And somebody could go on a cold streak, but then go on an absolute tear. And if they're in the middle of an offensive tear, you would want to see them hitting in the top of the order, because you want them to be able to get on base early enough and start to put that pressure on the opposing pitcher, like I talked about with the Jarren Duran situation. So I would say don't be alarmed by the lineup switches and people moving down or moving up in the order, depending on how they're performing at the time. And that's not an uncommon thing for managers to do. Alex Cora is not the only one who does that. A lot of managers around Major League Baseball will do that. It's pretty common when you're managing the day-to-day operations of the team. So it was definitely an interesting lineup. Obviously, the Red Sox didn't win with it, but they did make a fun comeback, and at least it was a competitive game. And hopefully it's a sign that they are in good shape to win the series. Coming up, though, I'm going to be talking about Romy Gonzalez being back and the impact that that has on the Boston Red Sox and the first base situation. So I know it's really scary if you look at your bank account and you have no idea what happened to your money. That's happened to me before where I've gone into my bank account and I'm like, wow, this account is so much lower than I thought it was. Then I started using Monarch Money and it helped me to really identify unnecessary expenses like subscriptions I had that I didn't even know that I was subscribed to and other random things that I had purchased that I didn't really need. And ever since Monarch Money has been a part of my life, I've been able to save a lot more money and I've been a lot better with being aware of what I'm spending money on and being able to actually regulate it and keep track of it. And especially with scams now and people hacking into accounts, it's really important to be able to keep track of your expenses so you can easily identify if a certain charge or transaction is you and if it's not. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. I am telling you, it's a lifesaver, so definitely check it out. So the Red Sox fell against the Angels by a score of 7-6 last night. Hopefully they can turn things around tonight and still win this series because naturally at the end of the day, you're not going to sweep everybody. I wish that you were, but that just doesn't happen in baseball. They do need to try to string together a lot of wins moving forward. I would like to see a nice win streak at some point. It's impossible to maintain long win streaks the entirety of the season. It's just too many games, and that's why they play so many. So I'm not saying go on some 8-game win streak and then maintain that throughout the rest of the season. I don't think that's really possible, but at least if they went on a tear where they won 8 of 10 or something along those lines, that could really get them back on track record-wise to be able to feel like they are well on their way to being a playoff team. The problem is that they haven't been able to fully get to that. They haven't been able to really string together multiple wins in a row. They haven't won 3 games in a row since a streak from April 26th to 29th. So that's been bad. It's always been no more than 2 games in a row that they've won, and then they slip back into losing. Hopefully they can win this series and gain some momentum. That's the only issue, is that they are coming off of a really nice series win in Atlanta just to lose again. So they absolutely have to win series, because if they win the next 3 series, for example, their record looks a lot better than if they lose this series and then win the next one and then lose another one after that. They need to win multiple series at a time. So look at it less from a game standpoint. Yes, obviously, I would like to see them string together 8 wins in a row, but realistically, it's probably not going to happen. So if you really dissect it, you have to look at, okay, let's try to win the next 5 series in a row. And that's a goal that the Red Sox should be making. And Alex Cora feels like they're close. I don't know where he's exactly getting that from. I still think there are lots of issues with this team right now, and they aren't executing in the best way they should be. But let's try to salvage a series win against an Angels team that really is not that good at 27-32. So, I mean, we should be more than capable of beating this team. And one player who can hopefully help with that is Romy Gonzalez, who returned to the Red Sox lineup on Monday night and went 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs. So it was definitely nice to have him back, getting 2 hits in that game. As a corresponding roster move, the Red Sox sent Nate Eaton back down to Worcester, so that was obviously short-lived, his call-up to the majors. So Romy Gonzalez is back, and he has hit really well for the Red Sox. He's been a guy who's been really reliable. He's only played in 192 games over his 5-year MLB career with the Red Sox and White Sox, but he has performed really well in a fill-in role. He's 28 years old, and right now, his batting average is up to a 316 on the season with a 365 on base percentage and 439 slugging. So he's somebody who has been performing at a really high level. He also has recorded 3 stolen bases. So he's definitely been somebody that I've been able to get excited about when he's at the plate. And last year he was delivering a lot when he was pinch hitting. Now it's not just pinch hitting. Now he's just performing well offensively in general. Hopefully he can maintain his numbers upon returning from this quad contusion that left him sidelined. But basically, the Red Sox have said that because Romy Gonzalez is now back, it decreases the urgency of trying to have Christian Campbell play first base. He's young enough and athletic enough to where theoretically the Red Sox could mold his defensive mind into a first baseman. Obviously, he's a natural second baseman, so ideally he would stay there. And I think the Red Sox would like him to stay there, but they felt like they were in desperation mode of not knowing exactly when Romy was coming back and felt like, okay, we might have to take a different route here and have Christian Campbell step in and play first base. But Alex Cora has said that now with Romy Gonzalez back, they probably won't move Christian Campbell to first. So what they would likely do is go back to kind of platooning Toro and Romy there, especially on days where Marcelo Meyer is going to be in the lineup. And I think the only reason Toro played third today was because of Meyer not being in the lineup and them wanting to keep Toro's bat in there. So if Toro continues to hit well, we might see him play first base more than Romy, and then Marcelo plays the majority of third base. Because if they like the way that Toro's hitting right now, I don't see them wanting to decrease his offensive presence, and I don't see them wanting to decrease how much he's playing. So as a result of that, it could end up being either they go back to Meyer at third every day and they have Toro and Romy go back to platooning at first like they were doing before Romy got injured, or they look into a scenario where they have Romy primarily play first base and then they have Toro play third, and then Marcelo Meyer is kind of the odd man out who doesn't play as much. So there's a couple different things that they could do with that, but it's looking like Christian Campbell is not going to be moved over to first base at this time now. And it also is interesting because it once again kind of roadblocks Roman Anthony from being called up, because now that they've activated somebody from the IL, it's hard to really switch people around at this point. And it's starting to get to the point where we really feel like Roman Anthony might not be called up until somebody gets hurt at this point. And that's tough because of how well he's hitting in AAA right now. And I know that he would be more than ready to come up and succeed at the major league level. But according to the Red Sox and the way that they've been lining guys up every day, it doesn't feel like they seem to have an everyday role open for him right now. And it doesn't seem like they're ready to make one at this time. So obviously I'm happy Romy's healthy. I think the Red Sox really do need his bat in the lineup, but the first base situation now becomes a little bit more confusing. And obviously before Romy went on the injured list, they actually came out and said that the plan for first base moving forward was going to be, okay, we're going to platoon with Romy and Abraham Toro at first base, and those are going to be our guys. Now, if Toro continues on the streak he's on of hitting well, and then now that Romy's back, he has a productive bat like we've seen from him before, that leads to the Red Sox maybe saying, okay, if we're competing by the trade deadline and we want to add, maybe it's not necessary for us to trade for a first baseman, because I kept saying, all right, we need to find a sustainable first baseman, somebody who can play that position consistently. But because of the way that Toro has stepped up lately, who, by the way, played a really nice defensive third base last night. He struggled early on in the game, but after that, he made some really nice plays over in that corner. But if he continues to play well and Romy continues to hit at a consistently high level, like we've seen from him in the past, then it becomes a situation of, okay, do we want to give up top prospects for a first baseman who can play there more consistently when we have two guys playing there who have actually been stepping up and have been a huge part of what we do offensively on this team? I'm going to guess at that point, I could see them saying, no, it doesn't make sense to do that. If we're going to trade away the prospects and improve areas of our roster, it should be pitching, because pitching is where we continue to struggle the most still. So that will be an interesting thing to watch play out, is what do the Red Sox do in a scenario in which these guys are balling out that are playing first base right now and the trade deadline is approaching? Do they say, okay, this isn't sustainable for us if we want to make a serious playoff run? Do we have to get another first baseman and kind of send Toro back down to AAA or DFA him or something, and then have Romy go back to being kind of a utility guy? Or do we roll with what we have because we feel confident enough in Toro and Romy to the point where they can lead us to hopefully a playoff spot down the road? I think it will depend a lot on where the Red Sox record is at, because obviously if they're not even close to contending in July, they wouldn't blow prospects on a rental first baseman to help them with a potential playoff run. But if they are in contention, that's when they have to look at the situation and say, okay, what option is better for us? What are we better off doing? So we'll have to see how it all plays out. But thank you for tuning in to Locked On Red Sox and making it your first listen today. For your second listen, please enjoy the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's a great show. It really goes around the horn and goes over all the games that took place from that night. So you can catch up on all your baseball action on that show on any podcast platform. Like I always say, try your best to keep the faith. Go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.